Thanks for tuning in for another episode of a show that we will let you know the name of because we finally agreed on something at some point in this episode, or maybe the next episode. But y'all know. Anyway.
I found a piece of tape.
He found a piece of tape. Pretty good.
Which brings me to the topic of today's episodes. Superpowers.
Yeah. Useful superpowers, useless superpowers, and everything in between.
And just, what's the big deal?
Yeah. Like just to start us off today, as this episode is, you're going to see this later, but as this episode is being filmed, the Flash TV series, this might date this episode if you look back a couple years from now. Anyone? Anyway, the Flash is going to face off with the Green Arrow, who also has a television show on the same channel.
Although Arrow has had a TV show for longer.
Yes, he's had a television show for much longer. For some reason, they thought that the Flash, couldn't make it without Arrow because they constantly keep having, Arrow characters pop up on the Flash for some reason. I don't know. But anyway, this mid-season ending, which is another bullshit thing we'll have to talk about at some point, is ending with a two-parter. One part airs tonight, the other part airs tomorrow, with the Flash facing off against Arrow. So, my thing here is that in the discussion board on Facebook, on the Arrow Facebook page, they started a whole discussion about who do you think will win, Arrow or the Flash?
Okay, let me stop you there to make one specific thing. Okay, this is the thing that everyone has to keep in mind whenever you have a superhero battle of any kind. It doesn't matter who's got the best powers. It all comes down to a fan will always say, my hero will win, and your hero will lose.
Yeah.
That is why, the Superman Goku thing, it's like, oh, Goku would win because yada yada yada. Superman would win because yada yada yada. It's always going to be whoever the person that you're arguing against likes is going to win. Nothing you say, no facts or evidence you can bring to bear will ever change that idiot's mind.
Yeah. I mean, you could make 1,000 points on how Goku is infinitely stronger. It'd be like a god facing an ant against Superman, just as an example. But the Superman fan will say, yeah, well, Superman will just spin the world backwards until, Goku first landed on the planet, and then take him off of the planet because Superman doesn't kill anyone.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where, okay, fine, maybe Superman is stronger than Goku. We'll never know because there's no Superman in the Dragon Ball universe. Everyone's just normal humans. So for all we know, Goku is Superman.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at it, what happened?
He's an alien orphan from another planet, landed in a spaceship. I mean, Dragon Ball Z is a remake of Superman.
Yeah, it is a Japanese remake of Superman.
So you agree that the principle of the remake is more important than the actual story developments. Done. Sidetracked. So you agree with me that we're in the center of the Earth? Sorry, that was an MC Chris reference. It seemed appropriate.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So anyway, in this forum, as people are saying, if Arrow had enough prep time and Arrow has experience.
I am so sick of the prep time argument. It's like, with enough prep time, humanity could win the fight against cancer. It's going to take a few hundred years of prep time, but totally doable.
It's true. Only 70 million people will die from beginning of cancer to end, but eventually it'll be cool. Even though there's thousands of different kinds of cancer, which is one of the problems.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things where Batman versus the Predator. Ideally, the Predator's going to win. It's going to be a good fight, but he's going to win.
Yeah, I mean, the Predator's stronger, his technology's better. There was something you may not have seen. If I can remember, by the time I finally get around to editing this video, maybe I'll put it in the description bar. But there's this channel, Bat in the Sun. And most recently they do superhero things, or superpower beatdown is what they call it. And they match characters together. Well, the most recent one was Batman versus Darth Vader. Now, if I remember, I will link the video down in the description bar. The video's okay. I mean, I'm not going to spoil too much for you, but I will say, though, that there is a lightsaber fight between Darth Vader and Batman.
And you know what? There's no losers in that.
No, because you know what? Batman had prep time.
Yeah, Batman had 5 minutes of prep time to break into Darth Vader's armory and apparently steal a lightsaber that Darth Vader had taken from Luke at some point.
Exactly, prep time. Before Vader found him.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway, though,
let's get back to actually talking about powers and not just about superheroes beating their heads in. I think we have a whole episode for that, too.
Yeah.
But, it's just a question of what makes a good superpower. I mean, is it utility? Is it functionality? Is it practical? I mean, there was that one guy from the X-Men way back when, the one who could understand any language.
Yeah. Which, in a practical world, like a world like ours, he would be a billionaire.
And, even then, he could make a lot of money as a translator, for like the UN or for other or governments or companies that just need someone to sit there and speak other languages for them.
Yeah. Now,
easy money.
Yeah. Now, as a hero, that power sucks ass.
It's like, okay, team, it's time to fight Magneto. Like, what am I doing here?
It's like, you linguist guy, you're up against the Juggernaut while we go get,
but I'm gonna die.
Say it in 7 languages. Yeah.
That poor bastard. I mean, see, that's the kind of thing where it would be useful. Things like invisibility.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool to be invisible? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it depends on how it works.
Yeah, I mean, for at least the one thing they gave to Susan Richards, the Invisible Woman from Fantastic Four, is they also gave her force fields.
Yeah.
Because if all she had was the ability to turn invisible, then she would be some unfortunate chick that could just turn invisible. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. But
work for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, she could work for S.H.I.E.L.D., but anything with an infrared camera would be able to pick her up. So
or
she's just
thermal vision.
Yeah. So she'd be just a poor schmo with, who could turn invisible when she got embarrassed.
Like, I'm the one who gets past the initial door guards and opens the door for everyone else, because if one of the cameras hits me, I'm fucked.
If I accidentally trip a laser.
There's also the question of how invisibility works, and it was something I was thinking about last night. To become invisible, basically you're making it so light does not impact on you. It goes right through you, because that's how you're perceiving the world. Everything you see is because light is bouncing off of things.
Yeah.
So if you're invisible, you can actually stop the light from hitting you. But then how do your eyes work?
Yeah.
Because your eyes work by catching all that light that bounces off other things and goes into them. So if there's if you're invisible and light doesn't hit you or just goes right through you, then there's no way for your eyes to pick up anything. So as soon as you go invisible, you're blind.
Yeah. I was thinking it was more of like a bending of light rather than becoming transparent. Because, I mean, it's... Especially with Susan Richards, if she has, like, the invisible force field, right? Let's just say she has the capability of doing something, like, so, like, minutely, thin around her body that it just bends the light around her.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. It's just like... I remember at one point... in the Ultimate Fantastic Four, when they first did the Marvel Zombies, she turned their optical nerves invisible.
Yeah.
She just went like, boom, and they're like, oh shit, I'm blind, because she made their optic nerves invisible, so there wasn't getting reception from the eyes to the brain. It's kind of crazy.
I remember one time, I think it was an alternate story, she actually erected an invisible force field in somebody's brain.
She did that to Deadpool.
Well, yeah, Deadpool, that...
Well, I mean, yeah, it didn't really put him down for good, but, it's possible. She set up an invisible force field inside his head and just expanded it until it popped. So invisibility's cool, maybe if the force fields came with it. Flying was a fun one to think about, but...
Yeah. I mean, one thing, if you really want to be a superhero... To make it infinitely more useful to be a superhero, one of the powers you need is invulnerability, at least to some degree.
Yeah, or a really good flight suit.
Yeah. Or, even like, like super dexterity, like somebody like Spider-Man, because I mean he's a little tougher than the average guy, but he's not.
Well, dexterity's not going to save you from wind shears.
Yeah. But yeah. Spider-Man could be shot to death.
Yes. And he has been on several occasions.
That's right. Matter of fact, one time Death, took pity on him, and it pissed Thanos off. But he came back. But unfortunately, he had broken Aunt May's barbecue sauce.
Irresponsible little bastard Peter Parker, I swear.
Maybe you will get to see that in the Aunt May movie. Hey, Peter Parker is coming back and forth every. You never see him do anything. Spider-Man's never mentioned.
Oh, Aunt May, I got that jar of barbecue sauce you wanted, but I kind of broke it on my way home. I'm gonna get another one at the store as soon as I change my pants. Yeah, but yeah, I don't. Superpowers are a fun idea. I think if I had to pick one, my ultimate pick would be mind control. I'd want to be telepathic, not just these aren't the droids you're looking for. I mean, I'm talking about the full-on Charlie Xavier, one thought, shut a whole room of people down, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I want the power to bend the world to my will. I mean, I know, according to the comics, if you change someone's mind too much with mind control, you could drive them insane, maybe have them kill themselves. But I'm not saying I want to, have everyone bowing down to me on a worldwide scale. I'm just saying it'd be nice to walk into a Fortune 500 company and say, hey, guess what? I'm now an outside consultant for a 7-figure annual salary. And easy as pie.
You'd be set, yeah. All of your meals in restaurants would be comped.
Exactly. I show up, someone's like, oh, that guy's a friend of the owner, make sure you comp his dinner. Right. No problem.
Exactly. I mean...
Subtle. That's what it's all about.
I mean, that would be useful all the way around, whether, you're a superhero or just, living in everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things that really don't transfer over very well from one to the other. Like you're saying, the ability to understand any language is great in, normal everyday life.
Yeah.
But if you put on a pair of spandex and go out with the X-Men, your ass is grass on that one.
You might as well be one of the reals.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just a guy with a big Rosetta Stone subscription.
Yeah. For some reason, I would imagine, the Hulk in real life, the Green Hulk wearing, a suit and going door to door selling, maybe, vacuums or something.
What other useless... Oh, what about Beak? You remember Beak? The chicken man.
That's more of a that's one thing I always argue. That was more of a deformity than a...
Well, you see, that's the thing about mutants and mutant powers, okay? If your mutant power was that you were born with 6 feet of extra skin, you could still be in the X-Men.
Yeah.
Especially if you can control it and manipulate it.
Yeah.
Of course, you could also do porn.
I wonder how many fat people they turned away. Because how people say it's it's genetic or whatever. To join the X-Men. Somebody's morbidly obese.
Which is why Blob never made it, because, they finally got around to someone whose actual power was his body mass and immovability, and they're like, oh, you're just another fat guy, blaming your genetics for the fact that you're fat. Go away.
And then after all the mutants lost their powers years ago, then Blob was like, see, I told you!
Yeah, standing there with,
a bunch of excess
100 pounds of excess skin that was so thick he couldn't cut it to kill himself. It was the saddest thing I've ever seen.
Did they ever... Well, maybe you don't know, but did they ever fix all that?
Kinda, sorta. I mean, they didn't, give everyone back their powers. Some people got them back, some people didn't, depending on fan response. Because that's the real superpower. Popularity.
Yeah.
But, yeah, some people, Scarlet Witch got her powers back, and Cat's got his powers back. Little chirping bird toy.
You want me to take it away?
I don't think you could. But yeah, what about, the Black Panther? He's got superpowers,
Kinda. I mean...
It depends on what you read, because, originally he was just some super athlete from Africa who maybe had some mystical connection to an ancient god. Now they're kind of playing it off differently. But yeah, mutants.
Yeah.
More mutants.
Yeah. Well, it's technically, I mean, that was another thing with Black Panthers. At one point, his parents were the ones who or his father, like, the mantle was, like, came down with the whole,
Yeah. But the mantle also came with a mystic connection to the Panther God.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's tricky and convoluted. That's the problem with magic superpowers, is they're harder to gauge. Like, Doctor Strange, what could he really do? He's got magic. But what does that mean?
Yeah. You know what would be kind of like... This is one that really doesn't transfer over well either. I was thinking Storm, thinking of the Black Panther. Because, I mean, okay, yeah, fighting, super villains or whatever, yeah, using the elements is pretty cool. You could freeze them or blow them away or whatever. But day-to-day life is like you go outside and it's like cloudy. It's like I'm going to the beach today.
Well, I mean, that's actually pretty practical.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a lazy, superpower right
you
there.
know what? Look, okay, no one is saying it has to be, ultra engaging. It's just like, oh, damn, the family reunion's this weekend and it's supposed to rain? Fuck that. It's sunny.
Yeah.
Getting tired of the relatives? Sudden rainstorm. Oh, sorry, guys, gotta cancel.
You know who doesn't appreciate the Flash's speed? Mrs.
His
Flash.
girlfriend.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, granted, there are certain things to be said, I suppose, for being with a human vibrator.
Yeah.
Remember that movie, Zoom? Where all he could do was the finger thing, and I'm like, well, I can make a career out of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, even that, being the Flash, that would be horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they get into it in some shows and in some of the comics, but his metabolism does burn ridiculously high, so he has to pretty much be eating whenever he's not doing a superhero thing.
Yeah, pretty much, constantly.
Conservation of energy, all that, actual science stuff.
But you'd also think about it, I mean, he'd also be having bowel movements, every, 10 minutes.
Maybe. I mean, unless his body processed things so fast and hard that there was, nothing left.
Ugh.
It was like, fuck it, use everything right now.
I haven't taken a shit since I become the Flash.
Because the alternative would be becoming the Flush.
Or the muscles in his urethra move so quickly that he's peeing like a laser cutter.
Keep blowing holes in the bathroom wall. People are asking questions, no one wants to answer them.
Yeah.
Super strength could be fun. I mean, there's a lot of problems that come with that. There was a whole thing in Spider-Man where he had the superpower and he ripped the doorknob off and fucking breaking shit.
Yeah, or the Amazing Spider-Man. Remember, he pulled the sink. Was that the one he pulled the sink out?
Yeah. Crank,
Because they kind of had a similar scene in both the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie and the Amazing Spider-Man movie, but I mean, it makes sense.
Or when he ripped the door off the hinges, when he was running in, he's like, "Rip!"
Yeah.
Put it back.
One thing I would recommend that you watch, if you have Netflix.
Maybe not. Maybe I'll keep it all to myself.
Maybe. Is something called Ant Boy. It's a German children's movie where
I was looking at that and I was like, why can't Marvel do that?
Yeah. Did you actually watch the movie, or did you?
I was gonna, but I didn't. Cause
yeah.
It's a kid's film. What the hell's wrong with you?
I'm
gonna go watch the Powerpuff Girls movie again.
That kid was so fucking selfish in Ant Boy. Well, you'll watch.
Yeah.
If you watch it. I mean, they did pretty good with the whole kid thing, honestly.
So apparently he didn't get the ant's sense of community and, duty to its hive.
No, but he did get a super pressure bite. He can walk on walls, he can bite through metal objects, and he has super strength.
With hilarious results, I'm sure.
Exactly. He was bitten by a genetically modified ant.
And Marvel's like, we're having trouble making Ant-Man. It's like, really?
That's okay. DC's having trouble making Wonder Woman. Maybe they'll finally make it now.
Well, they're not having trouble making the Suicide Squad movie. Because that story needed to be told.
Well, they need something to combat the Sinister Six movie. I see an era of really crappy movies coming out soon for superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they've exhausted all of the good franchises. They're like making the plans and getting stuff together, and then they're like, well, you know what? No, that's not fair. Okay, let me rephrase, because Marvel is doing all the good shit. Black Panther, Ant-Man, the Infinity War. They've got a docket of films going for the next 2 or 3 years of exactly what they're going to do and when they're going to do it, and every one of those is going to be pure fucking gold.
Yeah. Sony is the problem with the Marvel Universe.
And Fox.
Don't talk about the Fantastic Four movie.
Oh, I'm still hurt over the X-Men franchise in general. Because everything I loved about the X-Men has been beaten and bastardized out of that franchise to the point where I haven't seen an X-Men movie in theaters since the second one.
Yeah, and pretty much everything that you've known about the first 3 X-Men movies...
Doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it's been retconned. So,
yeah,
because they fucked it up so bad with the flashback. It's like they didn't even watch the...
Yeah, it's like, why are we bothering to watch anything? Because we're going to change the past anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that was even their plan at first, or if, somebody finally watched the other movie and was like, wait, what we did didn't make sense.
Like, someone make a time travel movie so we can fix this crap.
Like surely in comics there had to have been some sort of time travel story. Like, I see, Days of Future Past from the 80s. That was great. Let's do that, except we'll have Shadowcat have the ability to, I'm not even going to get into that. That's a whole different...
Just stop. I mean, just let it go.
It's just stupid.
Yeah, well, it is. But, now that you mentioned the Fantastic Four, I do feel I should comment at least a little bit. Because, I mean, the Fantastic Four movie that came out with the guy from The Shield and the dude who's Captain America now, that was actually not terrible. I mean, it was not good by any stretch of the imagination. They took too many liberties, it was a little bit sideways, but the characters were pretty good. Dr. Doom could have used more Doom instead of just being Technoman.
Yeah. Although, the new one that's coming out, at least from the limited information that's come out so far, it's more than likely going to be a found footage movie. That's one thing. Another thing is there's a total redesign of the Thing to make it more realistic looking and less cartoony. That one is less of a rumor and more of a fact.
Yeah, okay, so Johnny and Sue Storm, the Human Torch and the Invisible Girl, are adopted. They were both adopted from separate families into the Storm family, which is fine. Adoption's great. But the worst thing that I've seen so far has been Dr. Doom. They're basically making him some kind of social media troll. He's a blogger.
Really? I didn't even hear about the story behind him.
Don't look into it. It was bad. But yeah, okay, look, that was bad and horrible. But the Fantastic Four actually makes a good study for superpowers. Because, I mean, you can set yourself on fire and fly around. That's cool, not useful. I mean, It could be. Maybe if you work at a luau.
Maybe, yeah, in your day-to-day personal life, not so great.
Except you'd always be the guy who could be like, oh, do you need a light? And then there's fire coming from your fingertips, and people are like, ooh,
yeah,
that's impressive.
Unless you're an arsonist.
Yeah, unless you're a pyromaniac, then this could be very useful.
Yeah. And then another thing that, I don't know, because, Reed Richards has kind of demonstrated how it can be useful in everyday life, but the whole super stretching thing?
Yeah. And then there's a few liberties that they occasionally take that kind of make me go, you remember in Earth X when they found Cerebro, but Charles Xavier's dead because all the telepaths dropped dead at the same time, and Reed Richards gave himself telepathy by expanding part of his brain? He literally stretched his mind.
Yeah. But it's all artistic licensing.
Yeah, technically it was like, the reason he could do this because he had this part of his brain was bigger than it should have been, so if I make that part of my brain bigger, I should be able to do it too. flimsy, but
So,
okay, I
I'm just
appreciate
gonna-
the effort.
I'm just going to inject synthol into my cerebral cortex.
Give him some mutant growth hormones, pop some of that shit. It's all good. Let's see, what else was there to talk about?
Well, going back to the Hulk really quick, I would say that the Hulk is actually a useless power. I mean, sure, I'm talking about the classic Hulk, not like the Gray Hulk or.
So we do have to clarify: the Hulk that was in the Avengers movie is basically the classic Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason why I say that's useless is because in practical terms, as far as everyday life, is the Hulk useful? No, if anything, it's more of a hindrance. Every time you get angry, you turn into this big green creature that just punches things.
Yeah, until someone leaves it alone, which they never do, because as soon as you start turning into a green monster and punching things, the army and the cops show up and start shooting at you.
Exactly. And then on a superhero end of things, you're a large, out-of-control, hulking creature. So, really, you're just like a dog on a chain, more or less.
Yeah. And even if you manage to somehow control your anger management issues so that you don't become the Hulk, you're not the Hulk. It doesn't matter.
You're just some dude who's trying to control his anger issues.
I mean, maybe you could turn it useful, but that's kind of an extreme circumstance. I mean, like, for any superpower, basically the first thing I would want to do is be selfish as fuck, because that's kind of human nature anyway. Like, I get mind control powers one day out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I've got a 7-figure job with a company that I never even actually see, because I just work as an outside consultant and no one even bothers to talk to me. So, yeah, that's my first thought. But after that, I'm like, you know what I could do? Let's go to some war-torn country and take over.
Yeah.
Have everybody stop fighting.
And then you become Doctor Doom. Or at least I would, because you know what I would do after that?
Dr. Doom.
Yeah, I would unite all of the best technology experts around the world and do what nobody's ever done before. Get them all together and force them to work together on a singular project.
But you know whose help you'd need with that? The guy who can speak all the languages. Yeah. Crux of the whole plan, that guy right there.
Yeah.
Even though with telepathy you could read everyone's minds and kind of get it, you wouldn't really need languages. But hey, they'd need to talk to each other. And he'd be the perfect guy to teach them other languages.
Exactly, unless you could somehow link all of their minds together.
Yeah, but that get really confusing.
See, what I would do is I would link all of the greatest minds on the planet together, right? And put it into this supercomputer. Some sort of brainiac. All of the existence of Earth on a...
I don't know. That sounds risky.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's actually, that's the selfish part. Let's say I wake up as, I get irradiated and I become the Hulk. I find out that every time I get mad, I destroy everything. Well, I go to the military and say, okay, here's the thing. As far as I know, I can't be killed. You drop me in the middle of a battlefield that you want cleared. Somebody shoots at me. I take out everything within 10 miles. Or at least anything that's shooting at me. So, what kind of payday am I looking at?
Yeah. It was also demonstrated, at least by the television show. I don't know so much about the comic books, so you got to kind of take a little license with that.
Yeah, you'd have to specify exact writers and time periods, and that's too much work.
You can apparently kill Bill Bixby, and he'll just wake up as the Hulk.
Well, they actually said that in the Avengers, too. He's like, oh, what are you going to do, kill me? I already tried that. I put a bullet in my mouth, and the other guy spit it out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And it's just like, oh, well, fine then. And they even kind of hinted at that in the Hulk movie with Edward Norton, the one that led up to the Avengers. That he would try to kill himself, but it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, if you try to kill...
When they gave him that stuff to make him, really mellow so he wouldn't turn into the Hulk... And then he jumped out of the plane and hit the ground in a crater, and he woke up as the Hulk.
Yep.
Or even that one comic at the end of the world, it's just the Hulk and the giant cockroaches.
Yeah.
Every time they rip him to pieces, he just kinda,
regenerates. Yeah, they'll bite him in half and what have you.
He just heals.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, really the only thing you could do with Hulk powers is you'd have to be treated like a missile. You have to be aimed at something and then triggered.
Yeah, and then everyone who doesn't want to get blown up, get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're like a nuclear bomb. So yeah, not very useful, honestly. I mean, yeah, maybe for like a military payday, like you're saying, but more than likely, you know what they would end up doing for retirement for you? Find some way to kill you.
Or they would just keep trying, and I'd finally be like, guys, come on, this is embarrassing for both of us.
Or they'd put you on disability. Because, you know, really, I mean, if that's the only other thing the government would do, is put you on disability, put you on medication to keep you calm.
Yeah, they'd give you a fuck ton of Prozac, and give you, so many dollars a month. Just be like, okay, so stay out of humanity's way.
Yeah, if they can't control the Hulk, that's the only thing they can do. If they can't kill you and they can't control you, they're just going to put you on disability and give you pills to sedate you.
Or try to shoot you into space.
Exactly.
And we all know how that works out.
Yeah. You know, there was some guy with his only power was immortality. He would keep coming back.
Yeah.
This was a DC villain. And how Batman dealt with him was just fucking sadistic. He shot him into space in this capsule that didn't have any oxygen in it. And pretty much what's implied is for the rest of existence, this guy's going to float through space, choking to death, waking up, and then suffocating again.
Well, it's kind of like the Captain Jack Harkness from Doctor Who. He was brought back to life by some weird story writing, and there's a superpower involved for 5 seconds, but he can't die. No matter what happens, he can't die. And in the Torchwood TV show, they really played with that in kind of a horrible way. Like, he would get shot, and then he just comes back. You know, one of his team members shot him, but they didn't know he would come back. So a minute later, he stands up, and she's like, what the f... And then she's dead. But at one point, they cut him into pieces, and the pieces healed back together inside a body bag, because I really didn't want to see that. At one point, they sealed him in a safe, filled it with concrete, and just left it there. And the way his team got him out was by dropping the safe, or the concrete block that he was trapped in, off a quarry. So it broke into pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you know what, just casual immortality is one thing. Immortality plus regeneration is kind of a pain in the ass, but thank God for that, because could you imagine if you didn't have regeneration?
Yeah, I was just thinking that, like, all of the pieces, imagine all of the pieces still felt, like if you had some sort of connection, but you're cut into pieces that would never be capable of being put back together with our current medical technology.
Which is another reason you should watch Torchwood, because now that I think about it, they actually did that. They had this whole thing where somebody introduced Captain Jack's immortal blood into this strange crack in the earth, and it turned everyone on Earth immortal. They couldn't die, but they didn't have his regenerative abilities. So ultimately, they had to just decide that anyone who was too far gone to continue existing but wouldn't die, they would just burn them down to ash. And that would get rid of them for good. But there were people like, someone got blown up, and the pieces were still alive and wiggling. And trying to scream without lungs.
Oh, man, that's horrible.
That's not a good superpower.
Yeah. Immortality in general is I say that's a good everyday superpower.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you were immortal, you could basically, well, like Vandal Savage. Remember the guy from DC, Scars, showed up in the Justice League cartoon? He's immortal. And he's super intelligent. So basically, on any given day, we could be sitting here like, well, pretty sure time travel will be invented in the next 100 years. Let's just wait and see. So we just quietly chill out 100 years, living under the radar, time travel back to like the 1400s and just enjoy time.
Yeah, just wait it out,
knowing what we know about where to find things and, who to talk to and what companies are going to be built, what empires are going to rise and fall.
Yeah, because you know what? Before we go back in time, we'll rule, and you know why? Because we've added adequate prep time.
Especially when we go back in time with immortality, we could have infinite prep time.
Exactly.
So anything becomes defeatable.
Yep. So with that, I think we will end. I think we're going to do a part 2 at some point of this one because there's so much potential here. But
Yeah, and we still need to even do the episode about the actual superhero fights because there is still so much to talk about in that regard.
exactly. But for now, what's your favorite superpower? Leave a comment down below.
Yeah, to all of our 2 fans who watch the show regularly, leave a comment down below, maybe.
Nobody ever has.
Yeah.
Well, except for Dan.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, Dan.